I still remember the exact moment everything went sideways. The kind of moment that seems small at first, almost forgettable, until it grows teeth and starts biting into your life years later. It was a Thursday afternoon in late October, one of those gray, damp days in Cleveland when the sky feels like it's pressing down on your shoulders. I had just finished a long shift at the auto repair shop, grease still under my fingernails, back aching like I was twice my age. On my way home, I stopped at the same gas station I always did. Nothing fancy, just a flickering sign and a bored cashier who barely looked up anymore. That's where I saw the lottery tickets. Now, I wasn't much of a gambler. My old man used to say, "The lottery is just a tax on hope," and I'd always laughed it off. But that day, I don't know, something nudged me. Maybe it was the cold, or the way my paycheck had already been mentally divided into bills before I even cashed it. So I bought 2 scratch-offs. One for me, and one, almost as an afterthought, for my little sister, Megan. Megan had always been the dreamer in the family. While I stayed in Cleveland fixing engines, she talked about moving to Los Angeles, becoming someone, living big. She worked at a diner, barely scraping by, but she carried herself like life owed her something better. When I got home, she was sprawled on the couch, flipping through channels like she was searching for a life she hadn't found yet. "Hey," I said, tossing the ticket onto her lap. "Got you something." She looked at it, then at me. "A lottery ticket? Seriously?" "Don't get excited," I smirked. "You'll probably win a free soda." She rolled her eyes but smiled. That same crooked smile she had since we were kids. I scratched mine first. "Nothing. Not even close." "Your turn," I said. She dragged a coin across the silver film lazily at first, then paused. Her eyebrows pulled together. "Wait." I laughed. "What? You win $5." She didn't answer. She scratched more, faster this time. Her breathing changed. I could hear it, sharp, uneven. "No way," she whispered. I leaned in. "What?" She turned the ticket toward me, her hand shaking. I stared at the numbers. Then I checked again. And again. My heart started pounding like it was trying to break out of my chest. "Meg," I said slowly. That's not right." "It is," she said, her voice barely there. "It matches. All of it." The room went dead quiet. Outside, a car passed, tires hissing on wet pavement. Somewhere, a dog barked. But inside that living room, time just stopped. Because my sister, using a ticket I bought on a random Thursday, had just won $2. For a million. And in that moment, I thought it was the best thing that could ever happen to our family. I had no idea it was the beginning of losing her. The next few days felt like we were living inside somebody else's life. One of those glossy, over-the-top stories you see on TV and roll your eyes at. Only this time, it was real. Too real. Megan could barely sleep that first night. Hell, neither could I. We kept double-checking the ticket like it might suddenly change its mind. By morning, she had already looked up how to claim the prize, who to call, what forms to fill out. I watched her pace around our tiny living room, barefoot, hair a mess, but eyes lit up like I hadn't seen since we were kids. "Do you realize what this means?" she said, stopping in front of me. "Yeah," I answered, still trying to keep my voice steady. "It means you don't have to work at that diner anymore." She laughed, but it wasn't the same laugh. It was sharper, louder. "It means I don't have to stay here anymore." That word, here, hung in the air like something rotten. Within a week, everything moved fast. Too fast. Lawyers, financial advisors, bank meetings. It was like she'd stepped into a world that had been waiting just for her. People started calling her ma'am instead of hon, and suddenly she was listening to strangers in suits more than she ever listened to me. We drove together to the lottery office in Columbus to claim the money. I remember sitting in that sterile waiting room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, watching Megan fill out paperwork like she'd been preparing for this her whole life. At one point, she looked at me and smiled. "Can you believe this?" she said. I smiled back. Not really. And for a second, just a second, it felt like nothing had changed. But it had. After the check was processed, after the photos were taken, her holding that oversized piece of cardboard with the number printed on it, things started shifting in ways I didn't fully understand at the time. The first thing she did was buy a car. Not just any car, a sleek black Mercedes-Benz S-Class that looked completely out of place parked in front of our beat-up house. Neighbors came out to stare. Kids rode their bikes slower just to get a better look. "You like it?" she asked, leaning against the hood like she belonged in a commercial. "It's something," I said carefully. She laughed again, flipping her hair. "It's just the beginning." And she meant it. Within days, she quit her job without notice. Didn't even say goodbye to most of the people there. Then she started talking about moving. First casually, then like it was already decided. "I'm thinking Miami," she said one night, scrolling through photos of oceanfront condos. "Or maybe L.A. I mean, why not? Why not Cleveland?" I asked. She didn't even look up. "Because I didn't win all this money to stay stuck." That word again. Stuck. I felt something tighten in my chest. "Stuck with who?" I asked quietly. She paused, just for a second, then shrugged. I didn't mean it like that. But she did. I could hear it in the way her voice had changed. In the way she talked about my money instead of our luck. In the way she started locking her bedroom door, something she'd never done before. A week later, she was gone. No big goodbye. No family dinner. Just a suitcase, a plane ticket, and a quick hug that felt more like an obligation than anything else. "I'll call you," she said. But as I stood there watching her get into a ride share, designer sunglasses already on her face, I had this sinking feeling in my gut that the sister I grew up with had already left long before that car pulled away. At first, she did call. Not often, not like before, but enough to keep that fragile thread between us from snapping completely. Usually late at night, when the noise on her end softened just enough for her voice to come through clear. The first time she called from Miami, I could barely recognize the background. Music pulsing, people laughing, glasses clinking, like she had stepped straight into one of those rooftop parties you only see in movies. "You should see this place," she said, her voice buzzing with energy. "It's insane. I've got this condo right on the water. Floor-to-ceiling windows. You wake up and it's just ocean." I leaned back in my old chair, the one that creaked every time I shifted. "Sounds expensive." She laughed. "I don't have to think like that anymore." That line stuck with me. At first, I told myself she was just excited. Anyone would be. You don't go from scraping together tips at a diner to sitting on millions without it changing something in you. I figured she just needed time to settle, to figure out who she was in this new life. But then the story started changing. It wasn't just about the condo anymore. It was about the people, the parties, the trips. "I met this guy, Evan," she said one night. "He knows people. Like, real people. Producers, investors. He says I should think bigger." "Bigger than what?" I asked. "Bigger than Cleveland. Bigger than everything." There it was again, that quiet dismissal of where we came from, like it was something she needed to outgrow. Weeks passed, then months. Her calls became shorter, less frequent. Sometimes she wouldn't pick up at all. When she did, she sounded distracted, like I was just another notification on her phone she hadn't cleared yet. One time, I heard a man's voice in the background. "Hey, Meg," I said, trying to keep it light. "Who's that?" "Just friends," she replied quickly. Too quickly. "Listen, I can't talk long." That was becoming her favorite sentence. Meanwhile, life back in Cleveland stayed exactly the same. Same job, same house, same routine. The only difference was the silence where my sister used to be. Mom tried calling her too. Left voicemails that got more worried with each passing week. "Sweetheart, just let me know you're okay." No answer. I started noticing things when Megan did send pictures. Designer clothes. Expensive restaurants. Champagne bottles with labels I couldn't even pronounce. Once, she sent a photo standing next to a bright red Ferrari 488, like it was nothing. "Rented it for the weekend," she texted. Just for fun. Just for fun. I stared at that message for a long time. Because for her, it was just fun now. For us, it was a different world entirely. The real turning point came about 3 months after she left. I called her. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. Then I got a message. Not a call. Not her voice. Just text. "Hey, things are kind of crazy right now. I need some space. Don't worry about me." I read it over and over. "Don't worry about me." Like that was even an option. I typed back. "Meg, we are your family." She didn't respond. Days went by, then weeks. And that fragile thread I'd been holding onto, it finally snapped. The silence didn't hit all at once. It crept in slowly, like a draft through a cracked window, barely noticeable at first, until one day you realize the whole house feels cold. Weeks turned into months, and Megan, she was gone. Not physically. I knew she was still somewhere out there, probably under neon lights and ocean air, but gone in every way that mattered. Mom took it the hardest. Every Sunday, she'd still set the table like Megan might walk through the door at any second. Same chipped plates, same worn tablecloth, same hopeful glance toward the hallway whenever a car passed outside. "She's just busy," Mom would say, more to herself than to me. You know how young people are. I didn't argue, but I knew this wasn't just busy. This was something else. One evening, after another unanswered call, Mom sat down across from me, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had long gone cold. "Did we do something wrong?" she asked quietly. That question, it hit harder than anything Megan had said or hadn't said. "No," I told her. "We didn't." But the truth was, I wasn't so sure anymore. Because the more I thought about it, the more I started replaying everything, every moment, every choice. That random Thursday, that stupid lottery ticket, the way I tossed it to her like it didn't matter. I started wondering if I had handed her more than just money. Maybe I'd handed her a way out. Meanwhile, bits and pieces of her new life kept finding their way back to us. Not through her, but through other people. A guy from the neighborhood showed me something on his phone one afternoon. "Hey, isn't this your sister?" It was a video. Megan, standing in what looked like some upscale nightclub in Miami, lights flashing around her, music pounding. She was laughing, holding a bottle, surrounded by people who looked like they belonged on magazine covers. But it wasn't just the scene. It was her. The way she moved. The way she smiled. It felt unfamiliar. "She looks like she's doing all right," the guy said with a grin. "Yeah," I replied slowly. "Looks that way." But something about it didn't sit right. Not long after that, I heard another story, this one harder to ignore. A friend of a friend had been down in Miami and claimed he saw her at some private party. Said she was with a group of people who burned through money like it was paper. She picked up the tab for everyone, he told me. Thousands of dollars. Didn't even blink. Thousands. Just like that. I tried calling her again that night. Straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message this time. Because what was I supposed to say? "Hey, remember us? Remember where you came from?" It sounded pathetic even in my own head. Then came the moment that really settled it for me. The one that made everything painfully clear. I got a letter. Not from Megan. From a bank. It was addressed to her, but somehow still tied to our old house. I stared at it for a long time before opening it, even though I knew I probably shouldn't. Inside was a statement. Balances, transactions, numbers that didn't even look real. Huge withdrawals. Luxury purchases. Transfers I couldn't begin to understand. And at the bottom, a remaining balance that was already shrinking faster than it should have been. My stomach dropped. Because suddenly, it wasn't just about her leaving. It wasn't just about her forgetting us. It was about where all of this was heading. And for the first time since that ticket scratched open our lives, I realized this story wasn't going to have a happy ending. I wish I could say I saw it coming in time to stop it. Truth is, by the time the cracks started showing, the whole thing was already collapsing. The call came out of nowhere. It was late, past midnight, and I almost didn't answer. I figured it was another wrong number or some robocall trying to sell me something I couldn't afford anyway. But then I saw the area code. Miami. My chest tightened before I even picked up. "Hello." At first, there was just noise. Music, voices, something breaking, then breathing. Fast, shaky breathing. "Jake?" It was her. But it didn't sound like her. "Megan." I sat up straight. "Meg, what's going on?" I need help." Those 4 words hit harder than anything else she'd ever said to me. For a second, I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, but because part of me had been waiting so long to hear that she needed us again, I didn't trust it was real. "What happened?" I asked finally. There was a pause. Then a shaky laugh that didn't belong in any normal conversation. "I think I messed up," she said. That was an understatement. The story came out in pieces. Broken, scattered, like she didn't even know where to start. That guy, Evan, he wasn't just some well-connected friend. He was the kind of guy who lived fast and expected everyone around him to keep up. Private parties, expensive trips, investments that sounded good after a few drinks, but made no sense the next morning. And Megan, she tried to keep up. She said it was normal, Megan muttered. "Everyone spends like that here. Everyone with infinite money, maybe." I snapped before I could stop myself. Silence. Then she kept going. She had been covering more than just her own lifestyle. Dinners, trips, gifts, sometimes entire weekends for groups of people she barely knew. At first, it felt good. Like she belonged somewhere she'd always imagined. But money doesn't last forever when you treat it like it does. I didn't realize how fast it was going, she said, her voice cracking. I didn't check. I just kept spending. I closed my eyes. That bank statement flashed back into my mind. How bad is it? I asked quietly. Another pause. Then, most of it's gone. The words landed like a punch to the gut. Gone. I repeated. Meg, it's been, what, 4 months? I know. She snapped, panic creeping into her voice. I know, okay. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to keep myself together. And now? I asked. Why are you calling now? That's when her voice dropped. Because it's not just the money. Something in me went cold. What do you mean? I owe people. The room felt smaller suddenly. How much? I asked. She didn't answer right away. When she finally did, it was barely above a whisper. Enough that they're not asking nicely anymore. I stood up without even realizing it, pacing across the room like movement might somehow fix this. Who are these people, Megan? I don't know, okay? Not really. Evan handled all that stuff. Of course he did. Where is he now? I demanded. Another silence. He's gone. That didn't surprise me. Not even a little. I stopped pacing. All right. I said slowly, forcing calm into my voice. Listen to me. You need to get out of there. Tonight. Pack what you can and leave. I can't, she said immediately. Why not? Because they know where I am. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about a girl who got rich and forgot her family. This was about a girl who got lost and didn't realize it until she was already in too deep. Meg, I said more firmly now. You should have called sooner. I know, she whispered. And for the first time in months. She sounded like my sister again. I didn't sleep that night. Not even close. After the call ended, I just sat there in the dark, phone still in my hand, staring at nothing. The house felt heavier somehow, like the walls themselves were pressing in with everything I now knew. Megan was in trouble. Real trouble. Not the kind you fix with a lecture or a second chance. The kind that follows you. By sunrise, I had already made up my mind. I called in sick at the shop, first time in years, and booked the earliest flight I could find to Miami. I didn't tell Mom everything. Just said Megan needed me. That was enough for her to nod, even if I could see the fear in her eyes. Bring her home, she said quietly. I didn't promise, because I didn't know if I could. Underscore. The air in Miami hit different the moment I stepped outside the airport. Thick, humid, carrying that mix of salt and something electric. It felt alive, but not in a comforting way. More like a place where things could spiral fast. I texted Megan when I landed. I'm here. No response. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. My stomach tightened. I didn't have an address, just a general idea of the area she'd been living in. High-rise condos near the water, the kind you see in glossy real estate ads. I grabbed a cab and headed that way, watching the city blur past in neon and glass. When I finally found the building, it was exactly how she described it months ago. Tall, sleek, too perfect. But something felt off. The lobby was quiet. Too quiet. I walked up to the front desk. I'm looking for Megan Carter, I said. The receptionist hesitated, then gave me a tight smile. I'm sorry, sir. She checked out. Checked out. I repeated. What does that mean? She moved out yesterday. Yesterday. My pulse spiked. Did she leave a forwarding address? Anything? I'm afraid I can't share that information. Of course not. I stepped outside, heart racing now. She hadn't answered. She'd moved out. And the last thing she told me was that people were looking for her. This wasn't coincidence. This was running. Underscore. I tried her number again. Nothing. Then again. Still nothing. I was about to give up when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered immediately. Megan. Silence. Then a man's voice. Low. Calm. Controlled. Who is this? Every instinct in me told me to hang up. I didn't. This is her brother, I said carefully. Who is this? A pause. Then a quiet chuckle. That's interesting. My grip tightened around the phone. Where is she? I demanded. Another pause. Then, your sister, she's made some poor decisions. My jaw clenched. I'm aware. Put her on the phone. That's not how this works. The air around me felt suddenly too thin. What do you want? I asked. Straight to the point. Another soft chuckle. Now we're getting somewhere. I closed my eyes for a second, steadying myself. Tell me what she owes. He didn't hesitate this time. Let's just say, more than she can pay. I exhaled slowly. Then you talk to me. Silence. Longer this time. Then, your family. That makes this complicated. Or simple, I shot back. You want money. I want my sister safe. Another pause. I could almost hear him thinking. Finally, he spoke. Meet us tonight. My heart skipped. Where? He gave me an address. Somewhere I didn't recognize. And come alone, he added. Or this conversation ends permanently. The line went dead. I stood there on the sidewalk, the Miami sun beating down, people walking past like nothing had changed. But everything had. Because now, it wasn't just about finding Megan. It was about whether I'd walk away from that meeting. Or not walk away at all. I've replayed that night in my head more times than I can count. Not because I want to, but because some moments carve themselves into you, whether you're ready or not. The address led me far from the polished skyline of Miami, away from the glass towers and ocean views Megan once bragged about. This part of the city was different, quieter, rougher around the edges. The kind of place where streetlights flicker and people mind their own business for a reason. I got there early. Didn't feel right showing up exactly on time. I stood outside an old warehouse, paint peeling, windows dark. The air was thick, heavy with that same tension I'd felt since stepping off the plane, but sharper now. Focused. A black SUV pulled up about 10 minutes later. Two guys stepped out first. Big. Silent. The kind of men who don't need to say much. Then the back door opened, and Megan stepped out. For a second, I didn't move. She looked smaller. Not physically, maybe, but like something inside her had shrunk. The confidence, the fire, it was still there, but dimmed, like a light running low on power. Jake, she said. That was all it took. I walked straight toward her. One of the guys shifted slightly, like he might step in, but the man from the phone raised a hand from inside the car. Let them talk. His voice. Calm. Same as before. I stopped a few feet from her. You okay? I asked. She nodded too fast. Yeah. I mean, no. But I am now. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Then I looked past her. You gonna stay in the car all night? I called out. A moment later, he stepped out. Mid-40s, maybe. Clean cut. Calm eyes. The kind of guy who didn't look dangerous until you paid attention. I prefer to observe first, he said. I prefer straight answers, I replied. He gave a small smile. I can respect that. He stepped closer, but not too close. Your sister owes a significant amount of money, he said. Money that was irresponsibly handled. She made mistakes, I said. We both know that. Yes, he nodded. But mistakes don't erase debt. I took a step forward. Then let's stop talking in circles. What's the number? He studied me for a second. Then he said it. And even though I had braced myself, it still hit hard. More than I had. More than I could realistically get fast. Megan looked down, ashamed. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear, Jake. I didn't know it got that bad. I believed her. That was the problem. I looked back at the man. You're not getting that kind of money from her, I said. You already know that. He tilted his head slightly. Which is why I'm talking to you. Then here's the deal, I said, my voice steady even though my heart wasn't. She's done. She walks away. You deal with me. Megan's head snapped up. Jake, no. I didn't look at her. Because if I did, I might hesitate. And what exactly can you offer? The man asked calmly. I thought about it. About Cleveland. About the shop. About every hour I'd worked. Every dollar I'd saved. About that stupid ticket. Time, I said. I'll pay it back. All of it. But she's out. Silence. The kind that stretches just long enough to make you doubt everything. Then, he smiled. Not wide. Not friendly. But not angry either. Family, he said quietly. Rare thing these days. He looked at Megan. Then back at me. Fine. One word. That was it. She walks, he continued. But you don't disappear. You miss payments. We revisit this conversation. I won't miss, I said. He nodded once. Then turned and walked back to the SUV. Just like that. It was over. Underscore. The ride back was quiet. Megan sat next to me, hands shaking, staring out the window like she was seeing the world for the first time. "I'm sorry," she said finally. I didn't answer right away, because sorry didn't even begin to cover it. "You forgot us," I said. Her voice broke. "I didn't mean to." "I know," I replied. "And I did. That was the hardest part." We went back to Cleveland a few days later. No luxury cars. No ocean views. Just home. It wasn't easy after that. Trust doesn't come back overnight. Neither does money. I worked more hours than I thought possible. Megan took whatever job she could get. No complaints this time. No big dreams. Just quiet determination. Sometimes I catch her looking at old photos. Not of Miami. Of us. People think winning the lottery is the beginning of a better life. For us, it was the moment everything broke. But strangely, it was also the only reason we found our way back. It's been 3 years since that night in Miami. 3 years of early mornings, late nights, and a kind of exhaustion that doesn't go away with sleep. The kind that settles into your bones because you chose it, and you have to keep choosing it every single day. I paid the debt. Every dollar. Not all at once, not even close, but piece by piece. Overtime shifts, side jobs, weekends that blurred into weekdays. I fixed engines during the day and did private repairs at night. There were months when I barely saw daylight outside of work. And yeah, there were moments I hated her for it. I won't lie about that. There were nights I sat alone in that same old kitchen back in Cleveland, staring at a stack of bills, thinking about what my life could have been if I hadn't bought that ticket. If I had just walked past that gas station. If I had kept my money in my pocket. But then I'd hear something down the hall. Megan, moving around quietly, trying not to wake anyone, working just as hard in her own way. She changed. Not overnight. Not magically. But slowly, honestly. She took a job at a small cafe at first. Nothing glamorous. Early shifts, low pay, sore feet by the end of the day. The kind of work she used to complain about. She never complained again. Later, she picked up a second job. Then started taking night classes, business, accounting, things she said she should have understood before ever touching that kind of money. "I want to know what I did wrong," she told me once. I didn't answer. Because the truth was, it wasn't just numbers. It was people. It was trust. It was thinking money could replace something it never could. Underscore, underscore. We don't talk about Miami much. Not directly. But sometimes it slips in. Like when a flashy car drives by, and she goes quiet. Or when someone at the cafe talks about easy money, and I see that look in her eyes, just for a second. Not temptation. Memory. Underscore. Mom still sets the table every Sunday. But now, Megan's actually there. Sitting in the same chair. Laughing, really laughing this time. Not that sharp, distant sound from before. Something warmer. Something real. Underscore. A few months ago, something happened. Small thing, really. But it stuck with me. I came home late. Another long shift, and found an envelope on the kitchen table. My name on it. Inside was cash. Not a lot, but enough to mean something. And a note. I know I can't undo everything, but I'm not running anymore. I stood there for a long time, just holding that piece of paper. Because for the first time since all of this started, it didn't feel like I was carrying it alone. Underscore. People still ask sometimes, friends, co-workers, what I'd do if I won the lottery. I always give the same answer. I'd walk right past the ticket. They laugh. Think I'm joking. I don't correct them. Because the truth is, Winning that money didn't just change Megan. It changed both of us. It showed us exactly how far someone can drift and how much it costs to find your way back.